AFUL Explorer, the fourth IEM from AFUL after the release of the highly successful P5, P8, Magic One, and now we have Explorer, and priced at 120 US dollar. This is pretty much to bridge the gap between P5 and Magic One, which is happen to be still the one that is most affordable. You can get it already from HiFiGo, as you can see here. And what you're gonna get inside the box is pretty much a simple affair to keep the price down, which is the IEM itself. Comes with this cable, and mine comes in 3.5 mm single-ended termination. And you're also gonna get this nice looking carrying case, at which inside you're gonna find two type of silicone tips, which I find to be quite useful. The normal type silicone tip, which is white, okay, this one, and also this blue one, which I happen to be using, has been using since the very beginning, and the entirety of my review will be based on that silicone tips. So looking at this Explorer closely, a bit more into the details of it, it is constructed entirely of this 3D printed resin, which is proprietary to AFUL, and inside you're gonna find a combination of a hybrid driver, two balanced amateur and one dynamic driver, which is rated at 26 ohm and with the sensitivity of 108 dB. So does it mean that this thing is easy to drive? We'll talk a bit more on it later. So looking at the construction itself, okay, let's just open this up. The cable is quite thick, by the way, okay? It is a high purity SPC, and I would even say that for the price of 120 US dollar, you're gonna get something which I would consider as a premium cable. I love it, okay? It is beefy, okay? Now, let's talk about the comfort, the wear factor of this Explorer. One thing for sure, this is probably one of the smallest hybrid that you can find in the market, which contains special crossover. Somehow, AFUL managed to fit them inside without the need to expand or enlarge the size too much. So you can be rest assured this is suitable for even for people who have small ears. And wearing it is very simple, just like this. Let me just show it to you. Okay, like this, and like that, left and right. Then just secure it with this chin slider. Okay, once worn like this, okay, I have been wearing it for quite a while. First, the seal, it's very, very good. One of the IM in the market nowadays, which I would consider as very good with seal factor, which means that it was able to block many ambient sound or noise from the outside. And the second thing is that the comfort factor. Okay, the design itself is very ergonomic, so which means that you can be rest assured, even if I have worn this in excess of probably like, normally I would listen to music, my music up to 3 hours or even 4 hours. I do not feel any kind of discomfort, which is a good thing. I do not feel that any part of the IM itself touching my ear to a point that I would consider as being annoying. So definitely when it comes to wear factor, you can be rest assured that AFUL Explorer is one of those IM which I consider as excellent. As noted earlier, the impedance rating is rated at 26 ohm with 108 dB of sensitivity, and it is a hybrid some more. So based on my knowledge, and most of you would already been familiar that hybrid typically are very easy and very sensitive. So is it true for this Explorer? Let me just describe it to you. Okay, the first time when I use it with this Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, which is my phone, okay, my regular phone, running from this 3.5 mm single-ended directly, I would say that yes, true indeed, it is easy to drive. But I noticed one thing. It does require quite a bit of volume at around 85%, okay, of volume out of 100 in order for me to get proper listening loudness. And once that is achieved, I would consider that the sound itself being usable, okay? Pretty much, I would say that largely musical rather than analytical. And I actually must declare that, when I listen to the overall sound presentation, I do feel that kind of like it asks for more power. Because one thing that I noticed was the sound stage, kind of a bit crammed in, not as open as how I would prefer it. So true indeed, when I switch to something which is a bit more powerful, like this, let me see, let me get this. Okay, I'm in the process of reviewing this. This is a digital audio player, DAB from Kiyo, which is M23, very powerful. And I run it from this 3.5 mm single-ended, and I crank the volume all the way to at around 45 out of 120, which indicate that it does require quite a bit of volume. But you must remember, it is still running on 3.5 mm single-ended. And true indeed, it scales amazingly well with power. So this Explorer, despite being a hybrid, okay, it really does need power in order to get the best sound out of it. Being the fourth IEM released from AFUL after the highly successful P5 and P8 especially, you can be rest assured that this AFUL Explorer shares the same DNA and characteristic to those previous AFUL tuning. So what I'm trying to say is that out of the box, I was already impressed. Impressed because this Explorer exhibit something which I consider as a very well-balanced sound. Okay, the balance is between being analytical and musical. So let's just talk about the musical aspect of it. How does it present the sound itself? Okay. When we talk about the sound presentation, we talk about the energy, the prat, the pace, the rhythm, okay, and the timing itself. Okay, this AFUL Explorer exhibit something which is non-offensive, okay, with the way it presents the energy itself. So you can expect something which is relatively fun, fairly analytical, but does not exhibit any kind of element, especially in the upper mid-range, being, edgy or anything like that. It does not sound sharp at all, okay? So you can expect something which is suitable for anybody, for any type of music. So when we look into the dynamic range itself, how it presents the dynamic spread, okay, talking about the upper frequency, this Explorer may not be so suitable for people who love, crispy, edge, or even highly analytical treble, because I do feel that it's kind of a bit roll off with the uppermost region of the treble itself, which means that the micro detail might appear kind of a bit subdued, okay? It does contain a bit of micro detail. It is still there. I can still hear it. I can still feel it. And a bit more of macro detail. But the good thing about the whole entire presentation of the upper frequency is that it sounded natural, never metallic, okay? And this is not an easy thing to achieve on a hybrid, okay? Especially when you have so many drivers inside. There's coherency to the upper frequency itself. And we talk about mid-range. Okay, the thing about this Explorer is that, the general tuning for the mid-range, I would consider as, hovering towards being a bit more being warmish because of that organic element. So you can expect, okay, to hear very nice presentation of female vocal, especially when it comes to, let's say, the lower octave type, like contralto, okay, and even soprano. And it does apply the same as well to male vocal, especially the baritone type, the chesty baritone type, but not so much for the falsetto high pitch type, okay? So it can sound a bit thin with that, but in general, I would say that it is largely smooth and warm sounding for the mid-range. And the attack, the decay of the mid-range itself, when subjected to certain different type of instrument. I listen a lot to classical or string instrument. I would just simply say that the edge of the attack itself kind of a bit dampened, okay, not as crispy as how I like it, but in exchange, what I get is something which is relatively organic sounding and smooth, super smooth. And I love that, okay? I can live with that. And then when we talk about lower frequency, just like many other IEM tune nowadays, okay, the focus is boost in the lower frequency. So you can expect two things, okay? The mid bass, it is boosted. The sub bass, it is also boosted. It is emphasized. I would even say that the tuning for this Explorer hovers closer towards being favoring Harman sort of lower frequency presentation, with an exception that the mid bass does appear kind of a bit, offering a bit more of present. In general, the presentation of the lower frequency is something which is focused a bit more on being smooth rather than being commanding. So if you love fast, okay, and tidy sort of bass, you might find that this a bit too smooth, okay. But then again, I am not complaining, because to me, okay, you either, go for this kind of smooth, non-boomy type of presentation, or you go for something which is fast and tidy. But either way, for somebody who loves big bass, this Explorer will deliver. The rating and comparison for AFUL Explorer against the rest of the competition in accordance to the latest rating system of Andy Odovok, which I recently announced. You can just simply click on the link below, okay, and have a look at this Excel file here, which I shared, okay, in Google Drive. You can clearly see that this Explorer is impressive. with a total score of 60 out of 100, okay, from the total score, and out of over 150 IEM I have tested so far. So let's just quickly try to compare it with the rest of the competition. You would notice there that, you know, AFUL Explorer is sandwiched somewhere between Truth Ear Nova and binary audio, Giz audio Chopin, and also even some other IEM which is quite popular. So this is how good this Explorer is, okay? Because I do admit, when I compare it directly with some of the higher end IEM which I have tested recently, this Explorer, in fact, is pretty much reminded me a lot to the sound presentation of IO Volare, okay, which is rated quite high there. The difference being is that this is less resolving with less resolution and less imaging and the soundstage itself as compared to that IO Volare. But when it comes to sound timbre, okay, when it comes to the smoothness itself, this Explorer is pretty much similar to that IO Volare, and this also is pretty much very similar to Truth Ear Nova, which I really love. The difference being is that that Truth Ear Nova, it being a thoroughbred Harman type of IEM, kind of a bit more focused on the sub bass, and this is a bit more on the mid bass. But pretty much I would say that when it comes to the rest of the technicalities, this Explorer is pretty much like a direct competition to this Truth Ear Nova. And also another of Giz Audio IEM, which was released sometime quite last year, I think, okay, which is the Giz Audio Galileo. Okay, so I would just even say that this Explorer also competes directly with Galileo in terms of being musical, well balanced, and very well tuned. Okay, it is definitely the type of IEM which is suitable for people who love safe tune, safe, non-offensive sort of listening indulgence.